US President Donald Trump today at the last moment cancelled the trip of his envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to Islamabad, Pakistan, due to Iran's position at the peace talks. Thus, another attempt at negotiations between the US and Iran was once again disrupted. And now senators and Republicans are urging Trump to urgently resume bombing Iran and even start a ground invasion, since the new regime in Tehran is no better than the old one. But also, the latest breakdown in negotiations may be related to the fact that, one way or another, Russia and China have already joined the conflict. First, the head of Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, just a few minutes before Donald Trump cancelled the negotiations, stated that he needed to consult with Oman and Russia for, quote, coordination of bilateral issues and consultation on problems in the Persian Gulf region. But the US decided to hit back economically, and they imposed sanctions against Iranian oil and Chinese oil refineries that were receiving this oil. I'm Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this episode, leave any comment under this video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News. You'll find the link in this video's description. So, despite the fact that in the last couple of days there have once again been hopes for negotiations between the US and Iran, President Donald Trump on Saturday, April 25 at the last moment cancelled the trip of his envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to Islamabad for those very negotiations. Although it was expected that Trump's envoys would meet there with Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi as part of this trip, which was intended to overcome the diplomatic deadlock and give momentum to reaching a deal. But at the last moment, Trump said, quote, sending them on an 18-hour flight in the current negotiation situation is too long. We can do this over the phone. The Iranians can call us if they want. We're not going to go there just to sit around. When asked if this means he plans to resume the war, Trump replied, quote, no, it doesn't mean that. We haven't thought about it yet. We hold all the cards. We're not going to sit there and talk about nothing. But the mood among the Republicans is a bit different. And you remember that the 60-day period is almost over when the US president can wage war without Congress's approval. So, the head of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Roger Wicker, publicly called on President Donald Trump today to continue strikes on Tehran. He stated that the radical successors of the slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei are not going to keep their promises or honor any agreements. Here is his quote. It's over. Our commander-in-chief must order his experienced military leaders to complete the destruction of Iran's armed forces and eliminate the remnants of its nuclear program. This is the only way to ensure lasting stability in the region. And after that, Iran starts to dodge and maneuver. The head of Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Abbas Araghchi, personally arrived in Pakistan on Friday, but immediately stated that Iranian officials do not plan to meet with representatives. Why do I say personally? Well, the thing is, after some internal disputes in Iran, the head of parliament, Ghalibaf, who was also negotiating with the United States together with Abbas Araghchi, suddenly, supposedly voluntarily, refused the role of negotiator yesterday. But it's obvious that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps simply talked him out of diplomacy because they suspected he was too soft and accommodating. But the point is that Iran has started to gain allies, and the further it goes, the harder it will be for Trump to reach an agreement. The thing is, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, the same one who refused to negotiate with the Americans, stated that now he needs to discuss all proposals for a peaceful settlement in the Middle East with the Russians and Omanis. He stated directly that after Pakistan he is going to Russia for consultations. And you might say, has Russia been an ally for a long time? Undoubtedly. But at least until now, Russia hasn't participated in the negotiations, and now it is becoming something of a consultant. On the other hand, the United States of America also went after China for its support of Iran. On Tuesday, let me remind you, Trump stated that Washington received a certain gift from China during the inspection of the detained ship Tuska. That was a mysterious reference by Trump, which some people interpreted as a hint at Chinese military supplies to Tehran. Well, those who are subscribed to my YouTube channel know exactly what I'm talking about. We discussed all of this on the very first day after the Americans detained the Tuska vessel under the Iranian flag. In short, this vessel departed from a Chinese port where chemicals are loaded. the very same chemicals that are necessary for producing solid fuel for Iranian missiles. And today it became known that the Trump administration imposed sanctions against Iranian tankers, 40 shipping companies, and vessels transporting Iranian oil. But what's even more interesting is this news, or rather, a part of this news. The US Treasury announced the imposition of sanctions on the Hengel Petrochemical Refinery Company. This is one of the Chinese so-called independent oil refineries, which the US agency described as one of Tehran's most valuable clients. By the way, these were the first sanctions, US sanctions against China for supporting Iran in the war. Well, here I'll quote US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The Treasury Department will continue to shrink the network of ships, intermediaries, and buyers that Iran relies on to deliver its oil to global markets. Any person or vessel facilitating Iranian shipments through covert trade and financing risks ending up on the American blacklist. And overall, although Trump, let me remind you, extended the truce with Iran, diplomatic efforts in recent days have brought absolutely no progress. And earlier this week, American officials said that the scattered Iranian political factions have very little time left to reach an agreement on the proposed deal. But so far, as you can see, there is no progress. And today, that same Arakchi met in Islamabad with the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Army Commander, and the Foreign Minister, all of whom are acting as mediators between the parties. And during the meetings, the Iranian Foreign Minister stated that Iran demands the lifting of the US naval blockade as a precondition for negotiations. And about an hour after Arakchi left Islamabad, Trump decided to cancel the trip of Witkoff and Kushner. And Arakchi, before leaving, stated, quote, "It remains to be seen whether the US is truly serious about diplomacy." So, I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation or a paid subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. It says there, support the Alexei Peachy channel. Choose any support option that's convenient for you. I will be grateful for any support you give to this channel. That's it for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.